Welcome into the Spoken Bee, our NHL and Bruins podcast for NESN.com. I'm your host, Rachel Holt. I'm joined by Nick Goss. And Nick, this is going to be a fun podcast because things are looking good for the Bees right now.
It's not just Christmas season. The Bruins are actually winning too. All good things.
The current state of the Bees, the team's 15-9-4. They're third in the Atlantic Division. They sit behind the Tampa Bay Lightning, who we're going to talk about. They're going to be tough to catch up to, and the Toronto Maple Leafs. But they have a 4-point lead over the Montreal Canadiens. They've won 6 straight games against conference foes, and we're seeing a much different team than we were seeing before Thanksgiving break. We had talked about them in depth. Can this team turn it around? And right now they're looking like they are.
They really are, and they're winning in lots of different ways. They're not giving up a ton of goals. They've scored 3 straight in 6 straight games. The goaltending, Tuukka Rask is finally looking like an elite netminder again, and they're getting healthier. So it's really an accumulation of a lot of good things for the Bruins, things starting to go their way, and I think we're finally seeing them play to their full potential.
To me, health is the biggest issue. Now, I had family members that were saying, this team, they're not going to do it this year. But I was saying, no, the team is not healthy. You're not seeing what they can do. So for you, are the injuries the biggest issue? And the fact that they have so many guys returning to the lineup, is that their biggest blessing in this period of success?
I think it really is. You look at some of the guys that are out, Patrice Bergeron, David Backes, Adam McQuaid, Ryan Spooner, Brad Marchand. These are some of your best players. They've gotten a lot of them back. And when you get those guys back, not only does that give you a huge boost because they're some of your best players, but now the other role players don't have to play as big a role. They go back in their natural positions. The young guys don't have to carry so much of the burden, especially offensively. Just makes everybody else's job easier. So I think getting the injuries, team healthy and getting those injured players back absolutely is the #1 factor.
Well, in this hot streak, they've won 3 in a row. They've won 9 of their last 11 games, which is just incredible. So for you, what's going to be the way that they sustain the success?
I think it has to be the goaltending and defense. They're not giving up a ton of shots. Tuukka Rask has been phenomenal. Khudobin has been pretty good, not as good as he was early in the season, but when you have your #1 goalie playing like Rask is right now, he's just been absolutely fantastic. 2 goals or less in each of his last 5 starts. He's won all of them. I think it starts when the Bruins, throughout their history, starts from the net out, and I think that's the way they're winning right now. And that's the recipe for success going forward.
Well, they had some success last night. I don't know if you watched this overtime game against the Red Wings. You had to stay up late for this one. Last night in Detroit, the Bees beat the Red Wings in overtime. The Bees were up 2-1. It was around 10 minutes into the third period when the Red Wings scored. Yep. And it was Pastas whose defense allowed the Red Wings to score. Then it was Pasta with a little redemption. He was the one who scored the goal to get it into OT. Joe Haggerty actually tweeted, "Pasta give and Pasta take away," and that's exactly what happened in this one. Brad Marchand with the assist on that one, and then it was Marchand again who found the back of the net in OT. After the game, Bruce Cassidy said, "In the end, we got it going eventually. There's a lot of pride in that room. We knew we needed to be better," and Marchand said, "We're starting to come together and different guys are stepping up every night, and to have a good team, you need that." Very positive quotes, very positive feelings after that big overtime win. So for you, what made the difference in this game?
I think it was your best player stepping up at the end. Marchand getting a beautiful overtime goal, Pastrnak tying the game late in the third period. You need your best players to step up when it's most dire. And they were down 2-1 to a fairly good team, the Detroit Red Wings, on the road, knowing that they had a tough back-to-back against the Capitals on Thursday night. And their best players stepped up. And it's good to see a young player like Pastrnak atone for his mistake. He didn't get down from it. He came back, did what he was supposed to do, found the open space for a beautiful pass from Marchand to tie it up. So when your best players step up like that, it's a very good sign.
Could you argue that the play of Tuukka Rask is getting lost in all of this? Because he's won 5 games in a row. And remember, this is a guy who was in the middle of some goalie controversy. Yes. In the beginning of the season. People were calling for him to be not the starting goalie anymore. Yeah,
I think that talk was a little preposterous. But he's going to get the anger and the bashing when he plays poorly. When he plays well, he's not going to get the credit. It's the nature of the position. But he's been absolutely phenomenal. As I said earlier, he's won 5 straight, 2 goals or less allowed in each of his last 5 starts, 1 goal or less in 3 of those. He's giving the team a chance to win, and he's not giving up a ton of early goals, so that sets the tone for the Bruins as well. So he's been tremendous in their success.
You mentioned the star power in that one. Pastrnak and Marchand both stepping up big when we needed them. You could argue that these guys are both living up to their expectations this season. Marchand, 12 goals and 25 points in 20 games. Pasta, 15 goals and 28 points in 28 games. So we'll take those numbers any day.
Anytime you have a player scoring at a point per game pace or better, that's absolutely phenomenal.
Hey, speaking of Pasta, check out this guy. He's on the cover of the Improper Bostonian. He's looking very dapper.
Yeah, great.
Yeah,
great
you don't really see him too often in this. Closed mouth smile, because he's missing some parts of his teeth, which he actually talks about in the issue. He says he hasn't missed a full tooth yet, but he has half teeth.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, you know, I guess that's good that he hasn't lost any teeth yet, but I think that he might want to get those replaced. But hey, whatever works for him. Really
interesting stuff that he had to say in here. We'll just take you through some of the key points. You should check out an issue for yourself. But he said, in Czech, his native country, pasta means toothpaste, and it also means spaghetti here. So he said he's spaghetti and toothpaste at the same time. He said the messiest player in the locker room, Charlie McAvoy. He's young, right?
Yeah, he was at BU last year. He was in his dorm. It's probably messy there too.
A young kid thing to do.
Not too surprising.
Yeah, not surprised there. Favorite city to play in, Dallas. He pointed to the warm weather. He likes to play in warm places, which is not surprising that his least favorite city to play is Winnipeg.
Yeah, I think a lot of people would say Winnipeg.
Yeah.
Not a lot to do there. It's very cold.
Not surprised by those two answers.
They do have a good team, though.
Something that would surprise people to know about you, he answered that he's good at drawing. What isn't Pasta good at? We don't know.
I don't know. I can't think of anything.
Yeah, he's a funny guy, so check out the issue. A good insight there into Boston's star player. Next up, this team has a tough task ahead of them. Not only did they play last night on the road in a game that went to OT, but now they have the Caps in town tonight, and the Caps are not an easy task. The Caps are 19-12-1. They've won 5 of 6 games in December, so they're riding a hot streak of their own. And how about this stat? The Bees are trying to end a 10-game losing streak against the Caps.
The Capitals are really been their kryptonite ever since really the 2012 first-round series, and Braden Holtby absolutely shut the Bruins down, and they won in Game 7 here in Boston. Holtby is 12-2 with a .944 save percentage in his career against the Bruins. He absolutely stones them almost every time. The Bruins have really had not much of any success against him. And but this will be a good test for the Bruins because the Capitals are really playing well. Alex Ovechkin now has 21 goals, that ties them with Lightning's Nikita Kucherov for the league lead. So they're playing some of their best hockey of the season. So the Bruins really need to be on their A game to get points here.
We mentioned the hot play of Tuukka Rask. Now, he won't be in goal tonight. It will be Anton Khudobin. So what do you think this game means for Khudobin, the fact that he's starting tonight and in the midst of what is a hot streak for Rask?
Yeah, he's under some pressure tonight because the team has been really playing well. It's a quality opponent, and he hasn't been playing as good as he was earlier in the season when people brought up those goalie controversies with him and Rask. So this is a big test for him. If he can shut down the Capitals, it'll give him not only the team a lot of confidence, but himself a lot of confidence and really help the Bruins moving forward here.
This is the first of 3 games at home for the Bees. After the Caps, they face the Rangers and the Blue Jackets. So in an ideal world, maybe you can't win all 3 of those games, but what should be the biggest key for the Bruins down the stretch?
I think just continuing the good goaltending and defense. I mean, these teams can score, the Rangers and Blue Jackets and the Capitals, obviously. So you want to, forecheck well, backcheck well, be good on the penalty kill. You want good goaltending from Rask. Don't give up too many early goals, fall behind too early because these teams, not only can the Blue Jackets score, they're one of the best teams defensively in the league. Sergei Bobrovsky, an excellent netminder. So playing catch-up hockey against these teams is not going to be a recipe for success. It's not against anyone, specifically these teams as well. So I think getting a good start would be key for the Bruins here.
Okay, also a key for the Bruins is staying healthy through the rest of the stretch, and they're really close to having a healthy team. They're looking good. Adam McQuaid is practicing this week. He's been out since October 19th. Are you hearing anything on his status of when he may potentially return?
Well, he's skating in practice, which is phenomenal. I think what's good for the Bruins is they're winning ways of late. They don't have to rush him back. They've got a lot of young blue liners playing pretty well right now. Charlie McAvoy, Brandon Carlo, even Torrey Krug, who's been around a while. He's still pretty young. He's playing very well too. And McQuaid is a very important piece to this team. Not only does he kill penalties, but he plays big minutes against top opponents. They need him back, and they need him healthy. Given his injury history, they probably would want to take as long as possible to get him back because they want to make sure he's fully ready to go when he does come back. So with them winning a bunch of games here, I think they've bought themselves a little time with him. But the fact that he's taking off the non-contact jersey in practice and he's skating fully, I think that's a pretty good sign.
Ryan Spooner is also skating with the team. He's listed as day-to-day. Do you think we're finally seeing the potential that this team has?
I think we are. I mean, I not to pat myself on the back too much, I did pick that they were going to go to the Stanley Cup Final at the beginning of the season. They are playing pretty well. I believe they're 8-2 in their last 10. They're getting healthier. The goaltending is playing up to par. Bruce Cassidy's system of good defense and turn that into transition offense has worked pretty well. I don't think they're an 8-2 over team pace for the entire season, but you have to like what you're seeing so far. All phases of the game are doing pretty well.
You can admit, were you a little nervous about your prediction for the Stanley Cup final before Thanksgiving?
I was. I think I picked the Anaheim Ducks to get in there as well, and they're doing just okay. So it didn't look good for now, but both teams are starting to.
There's still plenty of time, right?
Right the ship, yeah.
That's the thing that we forget, especially in Boston, is there's plenty of time. Let's let these guys
Not
have
a lot of
chance
patience here.
to
We have
right
to be
ship.
patient.
Not a patient city by any means. Matt Beleskey, today the Bruins placed the forward on waivers. He's been a healthy scratch since November 26th, so he hasn't been doing much for the team. He has 0 points this year. The Bees signed him to a 5-year deal worth $3.8 million a year. That was back in 2014.
The summer of 2015.
2015,
yeah.
Okay. So what was the reasoning behind this?
I mean, he just hasn't been producing. That's really what it comes down to. And not only that, but he's been, injured for a decent portion of his time here. Not really a surprise. In Anaheim, he never played more than 70 games in a season. And when you're not in the lineup because you're not producing and you're not healthy, and you have so many other good young forwards that the Bruins have drafted that need ice time, it's tough to keep them out of the lineup. You need to see what they can do. And if you have a veteran like Beleskey who's just not playing well, you have to make tough choices. And they've healthy scratched some of their defensemen a few years ago. Kevin Miller and Adam McQuaid have seen healthy scratch time. But Beleskey needs to play a lot. He needs to play in all situations. I think he's only going to get that in Providence because he's not better than some of the young players they need to play in the bottom six.
Some people saw this move coming for a while. Do you think it was kind of inevitable at this point?
I think it was, honestly. He's shooting 3.8% last year, 8.9% the year before. He's just not scoring goals, and that's what he came in to do. He plays a heavy, gritty game as well. The Bruins have plenty of that. They don't need a ton of physicality in their lineup. They have that already. They need players who can score goals. They've only scored 80 goals this year. Now they have played a lot less games than some other teams, but the offense just hasn't been there. He's not providing it, so they need to find other avenues to get that.
Knowing the market, knowing the players out there, do you think he'll get picked up by another team, or do you see him going to Providence and getting the reps that the team wants him to get?
It really depends. A $3.8 million cap hit is really not that high in today's NHL. GMs love reclamation products. They love to be the guys that, I can turn him around. If I pick him up, I know that our system is good for him. So I wouldn't be too surprised if he gets picked up, but I do think that GMs will probably want to see him play in Providence a little bit, see that he's fully healthy, see that his game is rounding into form. And if that happens, I can see someone picking him up.
Let's talk about some news around the league here. Tampa Bay, we talked about these guys earlier on in the show, how they're atop the league in the division. Well, they won 5 in a row. They remain atop the NHL standings. They are 22-6-2. So do you see anyone catching these guys?
For the East, no, I don't see anybody catching them in the East. They're a very well-rounded team. Stamkos and Kucherov, probably the best duo in the league from a line mate standpoint. Very good defense, well coached with John Cooper. Steve Yzerman has made some good trade deadline acquisitions in his years as GM too. So I think this Vasilevsky has won 20 of his 25 starts as their #1 goalie. This is the most complete team in the league right now. I know the Pittsburgh Penguins are the 2-time defending Stanley Cup champs. I'd probably put my money on them coming into the playoffs just with their pedigree. But right now, I don't see anybody as far as getting the #1 seed in the East catching the Lightning.
Much like the Lightning and the Bruins, the Washington Capitals, they're surging too. They are 8-2-0 in their last 10 games. They're tied for first in their division. So, like we mentioned, this is a tall task tonight for the Bees in a back-to-back and going up against the Caps.
It really is. The Capitals are, as I mentioned earlier, they're playing some of their best hockey of the year. Alex Ovechkin looks as good as he has all season. Holtby's giving them fantastic production in net. And their defense is providing offense as well. John Carlson's having a nice season. And they're well coached as well. So they're another very well-rounded team. They're a team that, they've fallen in the playoffs so many times, especially to the rival Penguins. They're going to be judged by what they do in the playoffs, but it's good to see them from their perspective, get it together after a pretty slow start.
And hey, we have to mention this team. How about the Las Vegas Golden Knights? I think they're everyone's favorite. I mean, you have your favorite team. This has to be everyone's second favorite team. I don't think anyone could have predicted how well they would do this season. Plus, they have a phenomenal Twitter feed. If you're not following their Twitter, you need to. Very, very witty, very funny. And they go after different teams too, which I appreciate.
They told us that they've won the same amount of Stanley Cups as every Canadian team since 1993, and it's true.
They troll. They troll hard. They own it. It's phenomenal. So they host the Penguins tonight and need a win to become the fastest franchise to reach 20 wins. It's in its inaugural season.
It's really remarkable. They did a pretty good job in the expansion draft too. They did the good job with their 3 first-round picks in the 2017 draft. And they've gotten really good goaltending. Former Bruin Malcolm Subban's done a nice job in net. Marc-Andre Fleury has done a nice job in net. We know his pedigree, multiple Stanley Cups. If he gets to start tonight, he'll be playing against his former Penguins teammates, which I'm sure will be an emotional experience. Maybe he'll get his ring as well. Not sure if he has that or not from this past season. But the Vegas Golden Knights have done a really good job. Gerard Gallant's a very good coach. I thought he got a raw deal getting fired from the Florida Panthers not too long ago. So they're doing very well, and they're very exciting. They play an exciting brand of hockey. So there's a lot to like in Vegas.
Yeah, there sure is. Not just with hockey. That place is magical. Let me tell you, I was there for the first time last summer, UFC, International Fight Week, and I loved it there.
There's always something going on in
I
Vegas.
didn't think I would like it. I loved it. On the radar, the Winter Classic is scheduled for January 1st at Citi Field. It features the Buffalo Sabres and the New York Rangers. Should be on your radar because the holidays are coming up. We know you're busy and whatnot, but always fun to watch the Winter Classic. How do you like these two teams in it?
I think, honestly, this might be the worst Winter Classic matchup. I'm sorry.
You won't be watching.
I probably will not be. I think college football playoff is on that day, too. But honestly, I mean, the Rangers are playing well, but I don't really see why the Buffalo Sabres are in this game. I understand Jack Eichel is one of the young stars of the league, but I think they're not at a level competing for a playoff spot yet where they should deserve to be in this game. But we're all going to talk about the upcoming.
I know you'll be watching this one.
This is
January,
a fantastic matchup.
2019. Yes. So not this one, the next one after it. The Bruins and the Blackhawks will play at Notre Dame Stadium on January 1st. So you are looking to tune into that one.
This one checks off all the boxes. Historic venue, Notre Dame Stadium, iconic sports stadium. Bruins and Blackhawks, two original six teams, two major markets. Obviously, we all remember the very exciting Stanley Cup final in 2013 that they played. Some of the best players in the league, Patrice Bergeron, Tuukka Rask on the Bruins side, and then Patrick Kane, Jonathan Toews on the Blackhawks. This is as good as it gets for a Winter Classic.
You're already giving us a matchup for 2019. Look at you go.
Yeah, I'm very excited about
this.
This is what the Winter Classic is all about. Maybe we get some snow too.
Okay, what's your prediction for this game?
For that game?
We're looking into the Magic Ball so far ahead.
Based on the way the Blackhawks are trending, I'll say Bruins 3-2.
Okay, we'll go back to the tape in a couple years and in a year and a few days. That will do it for this show. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be at the Bruins game tonight and again on Saturday, and all their home games throughout this stretch. So make sure you keep it on NESN.com for all your Bruins and NHL news.